Hi, we're going to make your apron. You should have everything you need in your apron envelope. This includes your pattern pieces and your instruction sheet. In today's video, I'm going to go through the instructions, so just follow along. The first part is cutting out your pattern piece. Fold your fabric in half with right sides together. The right side is the side you want everyone to see at the end when you're finished. Your selved edges should also be facing each other or together. There are two sides to the fabric, the selved edge and the raw edge. The raw edge is the edge that has been cut with scissors when you purchase the fabric. On the instruction, it tells you to place your pattern piece on the fold, to pin the edges, and then to cut around. When cutting, it's important that you take long strides. Cut all the way around your pattern piece. Make sure you read all the instructions on your pattern piece. Some things may need to be scribed in with a pen or a pencil. For example, these two squares here. This tells us where our herringbone tape needs to sit. So I'm going to mark them in. The next part of the instruction says to pin your pockets to a single layer of fabric. Your teacher will give you a couple of pocket options. You can have a single pocket or a wider pocket. I'm the designer, well you're the designer, so you can choose what you like. I'm going to choose to put both pockets onto my apron. Once you've pinned it down, cut them out just as you did with the other pattern piece and mark in any lines. For example, those dotted lines for the hem, and also lines like this one here that show you where you'll end up stitching. So once you've cut out all your pattern pieces, just mark where our hem lines are with a texter, or you can slip them with scissors so you know where to fold when it comes to it. Also, just put your initials somewhere in the corner so that you don't lose your pattern pieces. Okay, the next part of your instruction says to sew the straight edges. That's these two edges here. It tells you to fold the edges over twice, 1 centimetre with a 1 centimetre hem. So to do that, use your ruler and your texter to measure 1 centimetre from the edge all the way down and just mark in a little line. Then fold the fabric over once, so the crease line is where you measured, and then fold that over again. This is called a double rolled hem. When pinning, I suggest that you pin like that, so your pins are horizontal. This makes it easier to sew, to remove your pins when you're sewing a little later. Now that you've pinned your 1 centimetre double roll hem on both sides, you're now ready to sew. Your instructions do say to iron it, but because we've got pretty smooth fabric, I'm not going to worry about that. So let's head over to the sewing machine. The next part of your instruction says to straight stitch your side seams. Make sure your machine width is on 0 and your stitch length is on 2.5 or 3. It depends on your machine. Always do a practice run to make sure your machine's stitching smoothly before you start. I like to use the inside of my presser foot as a guide. Put your presser foot down and always turn your needle in. This prevents your cotton from getting tangled. I also like to look at this indent on the inside of my presser foot. Wherever that indent is, that's where my straight stitch is going to go. When you start stitching, only stitch for a couple of stitches and then make sure you reverse. This secures your stitch. You can easily remove your needles because we place them on the horizontal. You're in control of your machine. You can go as fast or as slow as you like. Your instruction says to fold over the seam and sew the top and bottom edge. Now this is where being the designer is great. My instruction says to fold over the top edge at 1 centimetre and then to 3 centimetres. However, I don't think this will suit my pattern piece. So I've just double rolled the hem 1 centimetre, just like my two sides. But I am going to fold my bottom edge at 1 centimeter, and then 3 centimeters, because I think this will look better for the final product. Okay, so I'm about to straight stitch my bottom, then the top of my apron. So same rules as before. Okay, now we're sewing the curved edges. So same thing, we need to double roll the hem 1 centimeter. Okay, I've already done this edge, so that's what we're aiming for. I've marked in my 1 centimeter lines, so I know roughly where to fold. Once you roll, pin. This one's a little bit trickier to doing your straight edges, but with a little bit of practice, you will get there. Always check and make sure your curved edge is smooth. You start sewing your curved edge, take a look and make sure that there's no twists in the fabric. And then you sew just like your straight edges. This is where, we'll take that first pin out first. This is where the little indent in the presser foot comes really in handy, because wherever that goes, that's where my stitch is going to go. A reminder to always turn your needle in and to reverse stitch at the start and the end of your stitching. I'm also using the side of my presser foot as a guide. You can stop whenever you like to straighten up the fabric. Okay, we're up to stitching on the pocket. I've sewn on this pocket down the bottom here. Remember, this was optional. Because you are the designer, remember you can add embellishments as well. So for example, before I stitch this pocket on, I could have added a little bit of an embellishment here, okay? But that needs to be done before. I'm not going to add embellishments today, but that's something you can do it as an extension. I've got my other pocket cut out piece now. So I'm going to show you what I did with this pocket, but on my smaller one, and I'm going to put it in the middle or on the side. I'm not sure yet, but remember I'm the designer, so I can put it where I like. So I've cut out my rectangle pocket. Remember, I did tell you to cut a couple of slits to indicate where the seams were or the creasing lines were for the top of the pocket. On your instruction, it says to fold down 1 centimeter, which is at the first slit, and then fold down to a total of 3 centimeters, and that's where the second slit is. I'm now going to pin this in place and straight stitch across the top here. Okay, now when stitching your pocket, remembering even though this is the wrong side, your stitch is going to be seen on the right side. So you want to get it pretty perfect. Make sure as well you're pretty close to this folded edge because you don't want it coming undone. So turning your needle in, straight stitch, reverse. Take your needles out as you go, and we're going to go all the way to the other end. Remembering I'm using the bit of my presser foot there to help guide me, and then reverse once you get to the end. Okay, now what we're going to do is we need to fold in the sides 1 centimeter. So you can measure these as we've done with the other side seams, or if you're starting to get a good eye for what 1 centimeter is, you can begin to estimate. Okay, sewing is a little bit about perfection though, so if you're not sure, make sure you do measure. Now we're going to do that all the way around our pocket. Okay, so now that I've pinned all around the 1 centimeter seam of my pocket, I need to position it where I would like it. A good tip is to hold your apron in front of you and get someone to help you pin it to where you like or position it. I think in the middle will be great. Sometimes, to make sure it's right in the center, you can measure the distance from each edge. Perfect. Now, taking out the pin from the back, you're going to pin the top of the fabric or the top of the pocket all the way through. So just work your way around, removing the pin from the back. Don't let it unfold. Make sure your pocket's staying straight, and put the pins in. Okay, now we've got our pocket pinned on. Make sure there's no pin stuck underneath. When stitching a pocket, it's really important that we do secure the edges, just like this. So if you do have something in your pocket, it's a little bit more stable. So we need to do triangles on the edge. So I just like to roll in a really faint diagonal line to help me. Okay, so the idea is we're going to straight stitch, reverse, stitch, 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 stop, turn a corner. You should remember that from your practice run. Stitch, 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 stop, turn the corner, stitch all the way down, stop, turn the corner, straight stitch all the way down the bottom, stop, turn the corner, stitch all the way up to the top, stop, turn the corner, to the tip of the triangle here, stop, turn the corner, all the way down and reverse, all in one go. Good luck. Okay, so I'm getting ready to stitch my pocket, putting my presser foot down. Now remember the indent should be tracing my black line that's there. Turn your needle in, stitch, 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 reverse. Now stitch. Remember, you're in control of the machine. You can go as slow as you like. If you're not very confident, you can use your hand wheel to turn to make sure you stop in the right place. Lift up the presser foot and turn, just like you would have practiced when you were getting your L's for your sewing machine. Presser foot goes down. Once again, you can use your hand wheel if you're not sure. Needle stays in the fabric, presser foot comes up, turn. Now just be careful as you're turning that you don't have any lumps of fabric or chunks of fabric stuck underneath. Just make sure it's nice and flat. And start stitching again. Sometimes you might just need to check the edges there. You want to stitch pretty close to the edge because you don't want flappy edges of your pocket. Okay. And keep going, repeating the turning the corner process and the triangle at the end. Okay, now we're up to doing the neck strap and the side straps. I've already put the neck strap on. And we're going to do the same thing on our side strap. So we're stitching a square and across in the middle to make sure it's secured. The little zigzag stitch is because we're going to secure the edges so they don't fray. So let's head over to the machine and we'll need to do that on both ends. So when doing a zigzag stitch, we're going to change the width of our stitch. So I'm going to turn that to 5. Your stitch length can still be on 3 or 2.5. Folding over the edge of your herringbone tape, press the foot down, turn your needle in, always do that. We're going to zigzag stitch all the way down and then reverse all the way back. Stop. Okay, now that we've zigzagged the edges so it doesn't fray anymore, we pin our strap into place. So just one pin's enough. The next step, once we go over to our machine, we're going to practice turning around a corner again. Straight stitch, reverse, stitch, 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 turn a corner, come all the way down, turn a corner, all the way across, turn a corner, all the way up. And then if you feel confident, you can either reverse stitch here and then do your own cross. Remember to reverse stitch on each side, or you can continue by doing a cross all the way down, come back up, back down again and reverse. And there you have it, your very own apron.